Good morning and welcome. My name is Camellia Jahanshahi, and before we begin today's service, I would like to take the time to formally acknowledge our presence as settlers, immigrants, and refugees on the unceded territories that make up Turtle Island. We call this land unceded as it was taken without treaty or agreement. Today, I'm speaking to you from Tiohtià:ke, known to me as Montreal, land of the Kanien'kehá:ka people. If you know the traditional name or custodians of the land on which you reside, I encourage you to type it in the chat. If you do not, I encourage you to take the time to go to native-land.ca to learn more about the traditional custodians on the land on which you reside. We make these acknowledgments as a small and humble part of our efforts to be better allies to our Indigenous siblings and to work in solidarity with compassion, consideration, and nuance as we struggle for Indigenous sovereignty in these lands. With that, I say thank you and welcome you to the rest of our service.
My name is Eleuthera Diconca-Lippert, and I am the song leader and choir director at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I would like to share some of my compositions with you that are on the theme of today's gathering. The first one is called What Does It Mean? And sometimes I've been tempted to change it to We Gotta Change, because that comes up in the chorus repeatedly. But I like that What Does It Mean is a question. I think that speaks to part of our process of learning how to relate to ourselves and one another. What does it mean to be in community? What does it mean to be in reciprocal relationship? What does it mean to work in social justice? What does it mean to lift one another up? And what does it mean to do so in a way that is nourishing? How do we replenish and make sure that we have that sacred energy to keep giving time and again and not deplete ourselves? So I think these are questions that we'll be in relationship with for the rest of our lives. So there are numerous answers to them, and they'll change as we grow and learn. All right. I'm going to invite you to sing it along with me. It's a little low, so maybe ideal for the tenors, but altos, maybe you can dip down there, and sopranos, you can do it an octave higher. It repeats a few times through, so hopefully you'll get the hang of it. I would love to hear you singing along. All right, here we go.
What does it mean to live in community? What does it mean to live in reciprocity? Means if one of us is chained, know that none of us is free. Let's get on building that new way and take to the streets. Yeah, we gotta change. We gotta change. We gotta change. We gotta change. What does it mean to live in community? What does it mean to live in reciprocity? Means if one of us is chained, know that none of us is free. Let's get on building that new way and take to the streets. Yeah, we gotta change. We gotta change. We gotta change. We gotta change.
Oh yeah, it's sounding real good. Thanks for singing with me, friends.
We're here. Take a good long look, Remy. This is what happens when a rat gets a little too comfortable around humans. The world we live in belongs to the enemy.
We must live carefully.
We look out for our own kind.
When is said and done, we are all we got.
No.
What?
No, Dad, I don't believe it. You're telling me that the future can only be more than this?
This is the way things are. You can't change nature.
Change is nature, Dad, the part that we can influence, and it starts when we decide.
Where are you going?
Look forward.
Hello again. Before we move forward with today's service, I thought it would be useful for us to take a brief pause for a collective breath and short grounding exercise. In a few moments, we're going to hear the results from yesterday's vote. And no matter where you're at or what you're coming to this worship with, your hopes, your frustrations, your disappointments, your excitements, whatever it is, it has been a long few months or years for some of us, and I think we all deserve a breath. So, with that said, I invite you to close your eyes, to find quiet and stillness and where you are, to allow your sit bones to sink further down, to allow your jaw to relax and your tongue to fall away from the roof of your mouth. And I invite you to take 3 deep, intentional breaths with me. We're going to breathe in and then hold it and then exhale. Ready? Breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Again, breathe in, hold, and exhale. One more time, breathe in, hold, exhale. With respect to our nervous systems in these times of change and discomfort, I invite you to slowly open your eyes and allow your soft gaze to move around your room, and as you're able, to see if you can name to yourself 5 green things. Quietly let your eyes move around your space and feel connected with where you are as you name 5 green things. Now, in the spirit of solidarity, compassion, and the will and hope for us all to thrive within this faith, I welcome you to the rest of our service.
Molly and I were born when the CUC became independent from the UUA. We have different experiences in how we came to be UUs, but we are here together as newly emerging young adults. If you consider the age of the CUC, not literally, of course, in some ways it's in its adulthood. Separating from the UUA in the early 2000s marked the beginning of our youth years, and since then we've been growing into our own identity and are now bridging into young adulthood.
As newly emerged young adults, Taz and I were asked to write what it means to us to leave the nest. We are people who've only recently become fully autonomous. We wash our own clothes, set our own alarms, we water our own plants. We are solely responsible for vacuuming the floor. And that can be scary at times, but it's also exciting.
Growing up in the youth community gave us space to form very strong personal values and morals, and now as young adults we carry those values with us and we make decisions based on them. New experiences mean personal growth and big life changes that can be terrifying.
But change is nature. Our world is going through a challenging and difficult transition, balancing COVID, civil rights, and a climate emergency. The CUC is also evolving, celebrating 60 years, moving online, and the decision of the 8th principle. As individuals, we have all blossomed.
The theme for this service came from the garden. What can we learn about growing from the compost bin? When the leaves change and plants die, they provide nutrients to the soil which make the following year's seedling stronger. Rot can be scary, but it's necessary for growth.
The world 60 years ago was a very different place. The Beatles made their debut appearance, the first men went to space, and the Berlin Wall had just started construction.
Some things are similar. A major civil rights movement, an emphasis on space exploration, West Side Story films are being made.
60 years ago, there were Unitarians and Universalists. Now, there are Unitarian Universalists. Change is scary, change is intimidating, change is exciting, change is nature.
I'm Reverend Ann Barker, she, her pronouns, and I serve as the president of the UU Ministers of Canada and as the minister to Westwood Unitarian Congregation in Amiskwichiwaskahikan, Beaver Hills House, colonially known as Edmonton. On Saturday, November 27th, 2021, at a special meeting, Canadian Unitarian Universalists voted to approve adding an 8th principle to the current 7 principles. We, the member congregations of the Canadian Unitarian Council, covenant to affirm and promote individual and communal action that accountably dismantles racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and our institutions. 95% of 104 delegates at the special meeting voted in favor of the motion. We celebrate this moment as an act of good faith, an intentional step toward this aspirational future, a vision of full inclusion for all people within our movement, within our lives and relationships, and the greatest imagining throughout the world. We give thanks to all of the leaders and staff and clergy and volunteers in the Canadian Unitarian Council, in our congregations and organizations and groups, and in the many conversations among Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarian Universalists throughout Canada that helped bring us to this result. We never want our personal, spiritual, or institutional growth to come as the result of any person's suffering, any person or group's harm. But that's often how it happens in life and in our faith communities, because suffering and loss and exclusion and harm are powerful motivators. So we lift up especially all of those Indigenous, Black, and people of color whose efforts, sacrifices, and losses constitute the necessity for this principle. Many of you lost hope, lost faith that you would be fully seen and recognized and respected among us. For those who are no longer with us, for those for whom this moment comes too late, I offer gratitude and apology that the cost of our wandering in the wilderness was the loss of your trust and companionship. For those who are still here in body or in spirit, I also offer gratitude and apology to you, for you have made bold efforts, taken great risks, and experienced injuries at our hands. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are committed to this work of dismantling racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion. In the book Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Marie Brown says, "We are in an imagination battle." She writes about how many Black lives have been lost because in some white imagination, they were dangerous. She concludes saying, "I often feel I am trapped inside someone else's imagination and I must engage my own imagination in order to break free." As I share comments from yesterday's meeting, I apologize for any errors or omissions as I'm quoting the Zoom auto transcript, which is a messy phonetic version of what truly happened and doesn't always include the speaker's full names or complete accuracy. Cynthia Lamb from Vancouver reminded us that while the Indigenous Black people of color population in Canada's larger cities is already around 40%, and is expected to be 1/3 of our total population by 2035, IBPOC membership in our Canadian UU communities is far smaller, and how important it is to be able to find one another and to find support within our institutions. Sydney Ray Schachter spoke these words. I think proposing the 8th principle would help on a wider scale Unitarians to do anti-racism work and provide just one more tool for Black, Indigenous people of color to bring forward anti-racism work and other leaders in the community to do that. So that's one thing I'm thinking about. Another thing I'm thinking about as a queer person, I don't speak on behalf of the whole community. I also don't speak on behalf of the whole community of all Indigenous people. I am one person. I think that inclusion of one group does not necessarily mean exclusion of another group. And I've always felt that we're very vocal and visible as a community about our support of queer people in the church. When I walk into my congregation, there's rainbows everywhere, and I'm very happy about that. And in a lot of spaces that I've been in, it's not the same for Indigenous and people of color. And I think the principle is one way of providing visibility to this. I think it's important that we have something that is visible and as a statement on our community. Beverly Horton, co-chair of the Dismantling Racism Study Group, pointed out that I wish that I could say that I'm surprised by this, but I will just point out that we have just spent more than 2 hours dealing with, for the most part, procedural issues, and have spent very little time addressing the principal motion and the motion for which the special meeting was called. This, to me, is white supremacy culture writ large, and I'm very distressed by this. Again, distressed, but not surprised. There is a big difference between being inclusive and being experienced as inclusive. Being inclusive is where we make wholehearted efforts to discover what would help a person feel welcome here and what barriers exist that stand in their way. We make specific efforts to imagine a different reality, and we do the work necessary to bring it to life. To be experienced as inclusive by those who have felt injured, ignored, or disenfranchised requires an even greater commitment. It requires us to move beyond our own perceptions of welcome and inclusion. It requires a willingness to shift our understanding of ownership and authority in our institutions and in our lives. It requires trusting the imaginations of people whose identities differ from ours. It requires adopting a new imagination. We have done this before, and we have needed to implement a compassionate imperfection to carry us through. We've learned from the women in our movement that our paternal structures and languages were barriers. And then we worked together to change these. The work is not complete. We need to continuously detangle ourselves from practices and structures that no longer serve us. We've learned from our environmentalists, our naturalists, and our people with earth-centered spiritualities that the addition of the interdependent web of all existence to our principles was a necessity. And so we added a 7th principle, and we work to manifest its wisdom. That work is not complete, as we witness the crises our planet is experiencing, and we labor to impact change. We've learned from our two-spirit LGBTQI+ siblings that they did not experience us as a safe place, and we had work to do to become a place of welcome and belonging. And so we became welcoming congregations, and we opened our hearts and minds to people who had previously felt excluded or harmed. That work is not complete. We know that the trans community was only nominally represented in the original Welcoming Congregation program, and that our understanding of identity and language is continuously changing. The Reverend Shauna Lingood, Minister Observer to the CUC Board, reminded us yesterday that for some, this has been many months of work. For others, it has been decades or a lifetime. Shauna quoted the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King from his 1964 book, Why We Can't Wait, saying, "We need a powerful sense of determination to banish the ugly blemish of racism. We can, of course, try to temporize, negotiate small, inadequate changes, and prolong the timetable of freedom in the hope that the narcotics of delay will dull the pain of progress. We can try, but we shall certainly fail. The shape of the world will not permit us the luxury of gradualism and procrastination," end quote. And I'll close with Shauna's words. "And let us not procrastinate. Let us not try to dull the pain. Let us try to walk into what we know to be true and real, which is that we have work to do. And please, after what I heard today, please let us not get into comparative suffering. The suffering of any of us under any systemic barrier is one too many, friends. We need not argue about whose pain is worse. All pain is pain that should be overcome, that we should remove barriers, that all of us are welcome and belong. So let us undertake that work together. Let us stay at the table and let us move forward. Blessed be and amen."
Christmas Week 1966, Western Canada LRY Conference in Edmonton, where we lived in the church building for 4 days, was quite memorable. Fall 67, Eastern Canada Federation Conference in Toronto, and hanging out across the street in Peter Pan Park. These were youth-conceived and run with supportive adult advisors, but they were our shows.
We had no social media. Conferences for us were so important because it was how we all got together. Long-distance phone calls were expensive. Youth today grew up with a more woke culture than we did. We didn't have the threat of the climate crisis hanging over us, but we did have the threat of nuclear self-destruction, which everyone seems to have forgotten about.
My generation came of age during the counterculture, when new forms of youth leadership and youth community were being explored. We wanted to participate in district and CUC events, but we wanted to create our own community during those events.
We got a job. We were already starting to work towards moving from a board-selected job to a democratically elected job. The people I interacted with were very glad the channel of communication was opened.
There are a lot of changes happening in the past few years, like the 8th Principles, and people in general just more aware. And there's been a lot of online spaces or BIPOC groups that have been started, so that's been helpful. I really want, in the future, not just people of color, but diversity in youth groups, and everywhere in the congregations, so people can feel like welcome, and they can see themselves in other people, and they can relate to each other. So they never feel like they're going through something alone.
Leading worship in my local congregation on my own and with our group, and feeling affirmed and supported. Representing Western Canada in Continental LRY. Being censored by my school principal for my valedictory speech at graduation titled, "We Want the World and We Want It Now."
So, we're in a boiling pot of water. Intergenerational communities, that is. Some people are already in, or have been in it, and are used to that temperature, or have normalized that temperature. Like, when the young person first gets in there, it's like, ooh, this is too hot. This isn't good at all. Very topical with climate change. And they start calling out and questioning the norms of today that people have acclimated to. On the other hand, we also rely on those before us to get out of said pot or turn down the heat. And we rely on knowledge passed down and taught of what has worked and not in the past. Also, being used to things, having things be the default, is changing a lot. Because the default doesn't work. Noticing that and speaking on that, I think, is really special. Every new young generation, I think, they're good at that. Because they notice if something isn't comfortable and want to speak on it.
Let go of control of our systems and practices and let the young people lead, even if it means change. We have taught them well, and they will be great leaders. It is my fondest desire that the young people out there who care about social justice would join us, bring us up to date, and use our platform to further their social justice concerns. We would welcome the opportunity to mentor a new team of visionaries, leaders, writers, activists, social media people, and people who do the daily business of keeping an organization going.
People are really getting to choose which traditions matter, how they're done, how they change over time, to keep the good and let the bad decompose. Especially moving from in-person spaces to virtual, and back to in-person again, things are getting lost in translation and are developing new meanings, which I think is both very fun, but at the same time it's a little bit scary.
This is Dear Baby Bird, written by Molly Syms-Wilson and Taz Trefsker. Dear Baby Bird, I've watched you grow as my branches have sprouted buds, and those buds have turned to leaves. I watched you hatch, and now your baby bird feathers are starting to shed. I see you're looking over the edge of your nest. Are you going to fly, baby bird? Will you take this chance? If you fall, I promise it won't hurt forever. Are you going to fly, baby bird? Where will you go? I promise you don't have to know. Are you going to fly, baby bird? What mistakes will you make? I promise you will make them, and that's okay. It's okay to be scared. This is one decision of many to come. Your song is special and unique. I will miss your sweet singing, baby bird. I will miss your soft feathers and your company in my branches, but a new season is coming. I cherished our time together. Make sure to come back and visit me. You're no longer my baby bird. You're flying now. Bye-bye, baby bird.
Up next is a song of mine called What Will Our Story Be? And I invite you to deepen into the theme of this service by singing along with it. The chorus is, before us lies an open page, the muse is here, the time is right, what will our story be? It repeats a few times, so please join me.
Oh, before us lies an open page, the muse is here, the time is right, what will our story be? For to burst forth from a fruit to seed, we first must dream and then conceive where this old branch will lead. The ink hasn't dried on the past, and the future lies before us like a blank canvas. Don't let this moment pass. Put that pen to paper, write a story to last. Oh, before us lies an open page, the muse is here, the time is right. What will our story be? Oh, before us lies an open page, the muse is here, the time is right. What will our story be? Oh, before us lies an open page, the muse is here, the time is right. What will our story be? Oh, before us lies an open page. The muse is here, the time is right. What will our story be?
Hello all. The theme for the service today is taking the old and updating it to make something new. A very concrete way that we will do this today is to make a Mad Lib of something we all know. In case you're unfamiliar, a Mad Lib is a word game where the game leader asks the players to submit a list of words in a story that is only known to the game leader. So what that means is I'm going to be asking all of you for nouns, adjectives, and verbs, and I would like all of you to put those words that you think of in the chat, and then I will choose from those, and later in the service, I will reveal what that story is going to be. So for an example, if I ask for an adjective and someone in the chat writes the word smelly, that will become a word in our story. So if the story was originally the little engine that could, with the word smelly, it would become the smelly engine that could, and so on and so forth. So I have quite a few words to ask of you. So if you could please, very kindly, if all of you could submit verbs into the chat that have 2 syllables. And I'll give you, just go, the first ones you think of. Okay, wonderful. Perfect. Now, if all of you could submit some nouns, so a person, a place, or a thing that has 2 syllables into the chat. Wonderful. I'm seeing all of them go. Okay, word number 3. I would like another noun, but this one I would like 3 syllables. So a person, a place, or a thing that has 3 syllables. Excellent. Okay, word number 4. I would like a verb that has 1 syllable. Cool. Next one, if I could please have a plural noun. So another person, place, or thing that's 2 syllables long. Perfect. Okay, last one. I would like an adjective, so a describing word that has 1 syllable. Perfect. Okay, so that is all the words that I will ask of you now. And we will be moving on with the service, and then later I'm going to read you a wonderful story.
I invite you now into a time of prayer and meditation to once again relax your body and connect with where you are at this moment, to let your sit bones sink further into your seat, to let your shoulders fall back, to extend the crown of your head up towards the sky and straighten your spine as you breathe. I invite you to let your jaw relax, your hands rest flat and open, your eyes to close softly, and to continue to breathe. I invite you to keep your eyes closed or to softly focus on this candle in front of you. I welcome you to think of yourself as being in a garden in the fall. Maybe you're a flower, an herb, a vegetable plant, or a beloved shrub. Whatever comes to your mind, I invite you to think of yourself as this plant in a garden as the months are getting colder. It's been a full year of growth, new leaves, new stems and branches, fruit and flowers. You've been visited by animals, humans, pollinators, visitors who have lovingly tended to you, and now it's time to sink back, to refocus your energy. You've been trimmed back to your basics. Your old leaves have been left on the ground beneath you to protect your roots over the winter and turn into mulch to feed a new iteration of yourself as you turn inward to conserve your energy and prepare for the hard work of making it through the coldest parts of the year. Knowing that doing this work, taking this rest to reset, is essential for your progress, for you to bloom or bear fruit again in the spring. I want you to linger on this thought, on all the challenging but necessary parts ahead of you as you dream about your goal of blooming fully under a warm sun again. The importance of deadheading your blooms, trimming back your leaves, maybe even your roots, to rest, to listen, to take sacred sleep, to learn from your mistakes as well as your victories. Maybe you need to find a different spot in the garden or new friends to surround yourself with for more compatible growth. Maybe you want to attract a different kind of pollinator or ask for a different kind of fertilizer come spring. Consider your cycles, the falls and winters, summers and springs you've seen before, and how you've grown a little differently each time, and bask in the glory that it is to grow, with all its bumps, bruises, missteps, and adjustments. Bask in the beauty that it is for you to be here to try and try again as a beloved part of our communal garden. I close out this meditation with a prayer from Afro-Carolinian saint that I found in the summer of 2020 called An Activist's Prayer. And when it is over, music will begin to play, and as it does, I urge you to continue to reflect on what it is to grow, to let go, and to change with the seasons. Thicken my love, widen my heart, sharpen my analysis, enliven my praxis, embolden my voice, deepen my rest, lighten my heaviness, toughen my skin, soften my spirit, strengthen my friendships, lengthen my endurance, weaken my ego, awaken my soul, refreshen my vision, hearken to my weary voice, O God. I am your friend and co-conspirator in the struggle for a new world. So mote it be.
The offering today is going to True North Aid, which offers practical humanitarian support to Northern Indigenous communities. To donate online, go to cuc.ca and select the donate button on the top right. Click Special Collections. You can also donate by texting donate to 1716-293-2525. Long distance charges may apply. You can also donate by calling the CUC office at 568-5723. Leave your name, number, and sometimes to reach you, our CUC staff will call you back. You can also send a check to 302-192 Spadina Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M5T2C2, with special collections in the memo line. Offerings will be collected until November 30th.
Hello all. I have the honor of presenting to you a new hymn. This hymn is called Splashing Wonder, previously known as Building Bridges. So I'm first going to be reading to you the new lyrics of this updated hymn, and then I will paste them in the chat on Zoom, and Eleuthera will lead us in song of this new hymn. So, to begin, Splashing Wonder. Splashing wonder between our pineapples, I run up to you, will you run up to me? With all of our sweaters and all of our doggies, friends, we could make such fierce harmony. Playing mountains between our basketballs, I bounce up to you, will you bounce up to me? With all of our hippies and all of our snowshoes, friends, we could make such green harmony. Skiing pumpkins between our Taj Mahals, I lean over to you. I lean over you, will you lean over me? With all of our doves and all of our churches, friends, we could make such fast harmony. So here are the lyrics to the newest Unitarian Universalist hymn.
This is such an awesome activity, Taz. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to sing the original version just in case there's anybody who's not familiar with it, and then we'll sing the new vision, co-created together right now. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. So that's the original, so you've got the tune. And now let's try singing this one, Splashing Wonder. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Splashing wonder between our pineapples, I run up to you, will you run up to me? With all of our sweaters and all of our doggies, friends, we could make such fierce harmony. Playing mountains between our basketballs, I bounce up to you, will you bounce up to me? With all of our hippies and all of our snowshoes, friends, we could make such green harmony. Skiing pumpkins between our Taj Mahals, I lean over you, will you lean over me? With all of our doves and all of our churches, friends, we could make such vast harmony. See, change isn't so hard.
Thank you everyone for attending this service. In a few minutes, we're going to be holding a coffee hour. And if you'd like to participate, please stay on the Zoom call. If you have to leave, again, thank you for your time and for joining us today. For coffee hour, we invite you to discuss what you are most looking forward to, whether that's in regards to the Canadian Unitarian Council, your congregation, or your personal life. We'll be sending you into breakout rooms soon, but for now, take a breath, stretch, get a cup of coffee. We'll be joining shortly.